Hi there, my name is Glenn Robertson, and I am the owner of Robertson's Wildlife and Pest Control. We service Central Ontario and Muskoka here in Ontario, Canada. I had a customer ask me if I would describe the history of my business and where it came from, how it started. So this video is for you, Dennis. Hope you're feeling better. Our customer Dennis is currently in the hospital. I thought I'd make a video for him to watch and explain the history of Robertson's Wildlife and Pest Control. So our start really came back in the early 1930s. My father, Scott Robertson, was a young boy during the Depression, and he's told me this story a few times of how he was about 9 or 10 years old. That would put it at around 1933. Him and his friend were on their way to school, and they saw where a skunk den was in the bank of the hill, and so they went to a local farmer and borrowed a foothold trap from him. This is at the height of the Depression. My dad told me that back then a man would work all day for $1. And the value of a skunk was 50 cents. So the boys thought, this was some easy money, easy pickings. So they borrowed this trap from their local farmer, set the trap up in front of the hole, and on their way to school the next morning, they noticed the trap was gone, and the trap was inside the hole, and the chain was outside. They had it staked off outside. So they, as my dad told the story, they proceeded to try to kill the skunk by putting a stick in the hole and hitting it. And he said all they were doing was just tapping it on the head because they couldn't get a full swing at it. So they're just basically just pissing off this skunk who just sprayed and sprayed and sprayed. So they eventually, I guess, just pulled it out of the thing, covered in skunk smell, and killed it, and hung it up in a tree or something like that. And off to school they went, reeking like skunk. So once they arrived at the school, the teacher said, "No, you're not coming into the classroom," and sent the boys home. So once he got home, his mother gave him a good lashing, and he had to put on his Sunday school clothes. He only had 2 pairs of clothes back in the Depression, and he had to walk back to school in his Sunday. They buried his clothes in the ground. They dug a hole, buried his clothes. Apparently that'll get rid of the smell. And he walked back. He said he got teased all day from the other kids because he was wearing his Sunday school suit at school. So that was the start of Robertson's Wildlife and Pest Control, because that was the first time my father ever trapped, and 10-year-old boy, and it gave him the trapping bug back then, and he started up doing it, and he did it right until close to his death. He was out trapping well into his 70s, and he'd come out with me and help me and show me things even when I was starting out. So miss him terribly. And so Dad ran a trap line up at the what we call the Swift Rapids. It's outside of Aurelia, and ran a trap line up there from the 60s through to the 80s, in which my brother Larry, who works for me, if you watch any videos on this channel, you'll have seen my brother Larry, and he runs and still runs the trap line up there. So it's been in our family since the late 60s. So that's how we started. We come from a trapping background. I took the trapping course in the early 90s. And at that time, the man instructing the course, he put the bug in my head. His name slips me right now, I'm sorry to say. He did nuisance animal trapping for townships and cities and municipalities and that type of thing. So he'd go out and catch, and so I thought, oh, well, maybe I could make some money doing that on the side with my other job. So that's what I did. I went out and bought a couple live traps, got an old crappy truck, and went into business by myself and gave my number to the Humane Society and said, hey, if you any nuisance raccoons, skunks, and that's how we started. I started by myself around 1993, going out and just live trapping random nuisance problems. I think the first year I might have made a couple $1,000, and the business grew from there. About 10 years in, we switched from just strictly wildlife, and we moved into pest control, and that's when I hired my brother Larry. He had experience in the pest trade, and so I hired him on, and we expanded the company doubled. We doubled the company immediately at that point, and then we could cover every animal. So that's where we are now, 30 years later. We're still going. The time is coming. It's coming down to an end. We're getting up in age and reaching retirement age. Hopefully, the young generation's coming up. My son works for the company, Nate. He does all my wildlife and all the wildlife control for the business, and my brother Larry takes care of the pest control side of things. So that's the history of Robertson's Wildlife. When I first started, I called it the Rodent Ritter, first time out, but there was another company called the Critter Ritter, and we were getting mixed up. People were getting us mixed up, so I changed it over and just put it into my name, Robertson's Wildlife and Pest Control. And it's been that way for 27 years now, and I was a rodent ritter for a couple years there in the beginning. So anyways, that's the history of Robertson's Wildlife and Pest Control. Hope you enjoyed this short little video. Thanks for watching, everybody.